Okay, in this video, we're going to look at kind of the principles of budgeting. What are the mechanics? So there are kind of two different things to look at. There's general fund, also known as the operating budget, and this is the pot of money that can be spent on anything. And this portion of the budget is actually kind of small compared to the other dedicated funds. These are money for specific sources that must be spent on one category of services. So some of these dedicated funds are transfer grants from the federal or state governments. And so when the federal government provides a grant for public safety, you can't use that money on Parks and Rec. When the state provides money for hospitals, you can't use that money for transportation. There are also dedicated funds that are specific tax revenue, tied to specific tax revenue. So sometimes you'll have as cities voters approve a tax, and that money is to go specifically for something. It might be specifically to build a stadium or specifically to support um, 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 childcare, things like that. And then there are fee-based revenue that becomes dedicated. So, for instance, in some cities, there are inspection fees. When a house or a business is inspected by the city, and those fees have to go directly to the inspection department. They can't be transferred to another department. Um, so the general fund is basically the pot of money that unrestricted that you can use on parks or police or fire or maintenance or anything like that. So when we think about this, we can also think about it in terms of fungible versus non-fungible. But more money can be used for any purpose. And this is if you've got money in the parks category and you need to move it to this public safety category, you can do that with fungible funds. Non-fungible funds are dedicated to a specific category and therefore cannot be transferred to another fund. This is largely not so much in terms of dedicated versus general funds, but in terms of kind of the actual structure of the budget. Some of the expenses that cities have, they have ongoing expenses. This is the salaries. You have to pay somebody a salary every single month. You have to put money into their pension and benefits every single month. If the city is renting any space, leasing any space, they have to pay that. They have to pay utilities. They have to pay supplies. These are the kinds of things that happen day in and day out, no matter what else is going on. Then there are bond payments. If you Because most cities have um, um, balanced budget requirements, the one way that they kind of get around this for capital projects is to issue a bond, and this then they have to pay every year until you've paid it off. So it's not ongoing in the same way that you will never pay off all of the salaries. And then there are one-time expenses. So these can be major capital projects. For instance, if you have to do an earthquake retrofit, then that's not something you're going to have to do every year. If you have a major fire and you have all kinds of overtime because you paid the salary of all the firefighters, that is a one-time expense, hopefully. And then there are also certain things that are just events. So, for instance, if your city gets the Olympics, you're going to end up having to spend a lot of money related to that one-time event. So the other things would be like the Super Bowl or, a centennial celebration or anything like that. Um, Revenue comes from a bunch of different sources: sales tax, property tax, income tax, fees, public-private partnerships, and reserve or rainy day funds. Um, the mix of these things varies a lot from state to state. For instance, in California, most of the property tax goes to the state level government and then is redistributed, not necessarily in the amounts that were generated. So Mission Viejo property tax may give the state more money than they get back in those services, and someplace like San Bernardino may get back more than they pay in property taxes. Um, Other states, the property taxes are much more tied to the locality rather than to a state pot. Um, because the property taxes all go to the state government, sales taxes become very important in California cities because they make revenue. Um, in California, the cities do not have the ability to levy an income tax, but in many states that they do levy income taxes. The fees things that you provide. You know, you get charged for your animal, for your dog license. You get charged for, using the library's conference room. Those are the kind of fees that happen. Public-private partnerships, and we'll get into this in the the next video. But these are times when the private sector, either nonprofit organizations or um, um, businesses provide, cooperate with a city to provide certain funds. And then reserve a rainy day funds, because the city budgets are subject to a balanced budget law. Often they'll set aside money for lean times, and then they're able to tap into that as either the tax base decreases, or you have sudden expenses. So those are all the different kind of pots of money that cities draw from. Um, then there are designated area taxation. Now, this is within a city, you have a sub zone that has different tax rates. So generally, if property taxes are 1%, they're 1% throughout the whole city. But there are times that cities deviate from this. One is where you get more money, more taxes from a specific area. These are usually called local improvement districts. And this is where property owners in a specified area tax themselves for a specific purpose. So you might have a area of the city that needs sewer improvements, and the local area would rather pay a little bit more in property taxes in order to get the sewer upgraded rather than have regular outages, that kind of thing. Um, there is also tax increment financing, which is basically where a specific area gets lower taxes, usually to support growth and development. These are your urban renewal projects. And so when a city wants to build up an area, they will provide tax abatements in order to get businesses to move into those areas.